You breathe 22,000 times a day. But do you know what's in the air? Some things might be good for you, like the smell of freshly cut grass. But other stuff floating around could be deadly. Like invisible but deadly. What is this thing, and how can you protect yourself from it? Find out right here. And subscribe before your next breath, so you never miss an update. Our world is full of tiny things we can't see, like atoms and molecules. Some of these particles can have a big effect on our health. That's why scientists are developing new technology to help us find out what exactly is floating around in the air. In today's video, we're going to explore one of these amazing inventions called Smart Dust. It's a small device that can detect all sorts of pollutants in the air and send the data straight to your phone. It's the best part, it's really easy to make at home. Let's check it out. First, you need a few materials like aluminum foil, an air sensor, or a smartphone with Bluetooth enabled, and a way to power the air sensor. You can get fancy and order an air sensor online, or just make one yourself by covering the camera on your smartphone with clear sticky tape and putting a piece of dark construction paper behind it. Then set your phone down somewhere like on your desk and turn on a nearby fan. Now when you block the light from reaching the camera, it thinks it's nighttime and starts recording what it sees. Now let's test it out. I'm going to burn some incense in the other room and see if our air pollution sensor can detect it. Here goes nothing. Now let's go check it out. Nothing yet. But wait, look there in the distance. Aha! The smoke is rising up and being pulled by the fan towards our sensor. Yep, there it is. Our sensor just recorded a big spike in particles in the air. What's happening here is that when you burn something, it releases tiny solid particles into the air. These are called particulate matter, or PM for short. The smaller the particle, the more dangerous it is. The PM is responsible for a lot of deaths each year. But how exactly does it kill people? One problem is that it gets into your lungs, and some particles are even small enough to get into your bloodstream. Once there, they can cause all sorts of damage depending on what they're made of. For example, studies show that long-term exposure to even small amounts of traffic-related pollution can lead to heart attacks and strokes. But there's another reason why it's important to know how much pollution is in the air. If there's too much, you might want to take cover. It's not just outdoor air pollution that we need to worry about either. Indoors, you might have to deal with mold spores, dust mites, pet dander, and more. In fact, the air inside your house might be 10 times more polluted than the air outside. But with a smart dust sensor, you could keep an eye on the situation. Let's try another experiment. Last time we used incense to simulate air pollution. This time we're going to use dust. And if we're careful, we can make the dust visible with a laser pointer. Here goes nothing yet. Look, here comes the dust, slowly rising up and getting caught in the laser beam. In this simulation, the dust represents pollen and other pollutants that can trigger asthma and allergies. Just like in the last experiment, the fan is pulling the particles toward our sensor. And now we can watch as the number of particles detected per minute rises and falls over time. This is called the particle concentration, or particle count. The thing to remember is that real-world sensors don't need a laser to detect pollution. Instead, they use a technique called scattered light. Here's how it works. Light enters the sensor and hits a little plate inside. Some of the light bounces off and makes its way to a photoresistor, which measures how intense the light is. When particles in the air bump into that light, though, they scatter it in all directions. That means less light makes it to the photoresistor, and the sensor knows there must be particles in the way. By measuring how much light gets blocked, the sensor can calculate the particle count in the air. Now this is pretty cool, but there is a limit to how big the particles have to be. This sensor can detect particles larger than 2.5 micrometers in diameter. Smaller ones like smoke and the pollution from wildfires are harder to spot. Luckily, there are other sensors that can catch these too. One type uses a technique called beta radiation, where a small amount of radioactive material is placed in the sensor. When a particle in the air collides with the radiation, it changes direction. The sensor then counts how many particles are doing that and calculates the pollution levels. Another type of sensor uses electrical currents to detect particles as they pass through the air, because different particles carry different electrical charges. The sensor can figure out what kind of pollution you're dealing with. For example, it might be able to tell the difference between pollution from a wildfire and pollution from traffic. These sensors aren't just great at detecting pollution, they can also be used to control robots. For example, some researchers are creating robots that can navigate in smoky, environments by following a trail of clean air left behind by humans. Other engineers are using sensors to detect leaks in industrial equipment and buildings. Leaks release dangerous gases into the air, but the sensors can sound an alarm and shut off the flow before anyone gets hurt. And that brings us back to the riddle we started with. I'm tiny, unseen, and float in your breath. What am I? Well, the answer is particles in the air. And if you want to learn more about these and other incredible science and tech stories, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an update. Speaking of updates, I've got a personal announcement to make. I've been working on a project for the past year, and I am so excited to share it with you. I've created my own space where we can talk about anything and everything related to the channel, including sneak peeks, behind the scenes, bloopers, and more. It's a place for us to hang out, chat, and connect. I hope you'll join me there. See you soon.